and welcome to the first ever Polyphonic on Campus webinar. I'm Steve Daniel, editor of Polyphonic on Campus, and I want to say thank you for signing on and joining us tonight for what is sure to be a fascinating presentation on a very creative project called the Music Bus Tour. Tracy Jacobson, director of the Music Bus Tour, is a bassoonist and holds a bachelor's in music from Rice University's Shepherd School. Anni Hochhalter, hope I got that right, is a French hornist who holds a bachelor's in music from the University of Southern California and is the French hornist with Wind Sync, the 2010 ensemble in residence for the Music Bus Tour. Tracy and Anni are here to talk about what is a very innovative and creative project that they have pioneered called the Music Bus Tour. So Tracy and Anni, welcome, and without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
All right, thanks, Steve. Hi, Eastman students and alumni, and anyone else who might be listening. I'm Tracy Jacobson, as Steve just mentioned, the founder and director of the Music Bus Tour. Tonight, I'll be talking quite literally about charting the path of an innovative music startup, specifically my startup, the Music Bus Tour.
And my name is Anni, as Steve mentioned, and I'm a member of Wind Sync. We were the first ensemble in residence of the Music Bus Tour, and I'll be telling the story from the other end, the chamber group's perspective, later on in the webinar.
So the Music Bus Tour is a nonprofit organization that promotes musicians playing interactive chamber music concerts. Essentially, we select one ensemble each year to go on an entrepreneurial outreach tour that originates in Texas and concludes in their hometown, wherever that may be. We, the Music Bus, are responsible for booking the Texas portion of the tour and allow and encourage the chamber group to act as a fly on the wall for a lot of those bookings. And the chamber group, with their newly found entrepreneurial skills, are responsible for at least 3 performances in their hometown in contrasting venues and settings for different audiences. So that way, we reach new audiences and venues while offering an excellent musical and outreach education for the musicians involved. So the Music Bus connection to Eastman is actually really substantial, and it stems back from 3 years ago when there was an Eastman facilitated conference, and it was hosted at Eastman, where students and administrators from conservatories and music schools around the country got together to talk about how to improve entrepreneurship in music education. And at that time, I knew about entrepreneurship, but not so much in a musical context, and certainly not in the context of music education. And it was during this conference that I realized all of the obstacles that were in place preventing universities and conservatories from expanding their music entrepreneurship programs. Budgeting, faculty buy-in, a lot of really big obstacles that I had no idea were there. And so I wanted to come up with something to fill that need. And during our time at that conference, came up with the idea of the Music Bus Tour, which at that time was something pretty different than what it is now. So the key to being an entrepreneur is to find where there's a need or a void and how to fill it, make it full. So the idea is that if you can come up with something that's really great in order to fill a need or to take up that void, it's just a matter of then making it happen, and the support is already really there for it. So once I had this idea of the Music Bus Tour, it was just a matter of how to facilitate it and make it come into fruition. So the first step for me was deciding really what the mission was going to be, because there are so many aspects of entrepreneurship and training and so many different routes to take. And so I spent a lot of time talking to experts and people in different fields and finding out what they were doing and their ideas about what I was thinking, and eventually came up with something that is relatively close to our actual mission statement. And then it was a matter of finding people that wanted to be a part of what I was doing, which is essentially people that had the skills to also make it happen, not just people that were interested, but people that could help with the website and help with all of the public relations, and people that had expertise in areas that I didn't. And that was going to be my board of directors. And then the final step is we worked with a lawyer to get our 501c3 status. And very quickly, for those of you that don't know what a 501c3 is, it's essentially a tax bracket for nonprofit organizations, symphony orchestras, things like that. And what it does is it allows you to apply for grants as well as to receive tax-deductible donations. And this is really big for getting funding. And so the way that we achieved this 501c3 status was we found a pro bono lawyer through an organization locally here in Texas, which was called TALA, the Texas Accountants and Lawyers for the Arts. And they set us up with a lawyer, Ingrid, who spent about 6 months meeting with us, more specifically meeting with me, and helping to shape my whole concept into something that could be put into the paperwork to be submitted to the IRS. And so it took essentially 6 months of meeting at the law firm and revisions of the paperwork until it was finally ready to be submitted. And about 4 months after that, we had received our letter of determination from the IRS and were able to apply for those grants and finally accept tax-deductible donations. So our goals in the Music Bus Tour are to increase the popularity and effectiveness of classical musicians' community outreach. And the way that we feel is best to do this is to take really great musicians that have a grasp on what they're doing and give them essentially the training and encouragement they need to actually fulfill that that bracket of community outreach and audience engagement. And it's really important to us that in addition to presenting these community concerts, that they're also top quality and really, really excellent musicians that are presenting them. Because the most important thing throughout all of this is that the quality of the concerts that you're presenting and the musical experience of your audience, even if they're not necessarily an educated audience, really needs to be top-notch, because that's what makes music great. No one wants to sit in a concert and hear mediocre music. And even if they maybe don't know the difference, it's still a matter of them understanding that and feeling like what they're listening to is really great, even if they don't necessarily know what makes it great. And so then, this idea, then the question then is, how do we make this happen? And so we decided to offer our participants, in exchange for doing these concerts and reaching these audiences, the entrepreneurial and interactive performance skills that are often overlooked or glossed over in the universities and conservatories that they come from. And it's not so much that they don't have an idea of what these skills are. It's just a matter of practice and getting to use them in an immersive setting like a tour, which is the definition of immersion, is 2 weeks in a van or a bus driving around and playing for anyone that will listen, and hopefully reaching a lot of new classical music listeners. And so we help our artists in residence each year to perfect the art of the interactive concert for them. So whatever they do, which is not really something that we are going to control or have say over, but it needs to be engaging, interactive, and intimate. And this is the engaging and interactive elements are particularly important because if it's not interesting and the people that are listening to the concert don't feel drawn to it, then they're really not going to want to go back or want to hear more. And the intimate setting is also really important. Even if it's not small, what I mean by intimate is that when the audience feels a connection to you, the musician, you, Anni, and they like you, then whatever you play, whatever your art is, whatever is important to you, then it becomes just by matter of being your art important to them. And so that's a really great way to reach people that don't know anything about classical music because they know that it's important to you and they like you. So that's that whole premise. And so the idea is that with those two ideas in mind, those two skills of the interactive concert and the entrepreneurial performance skills, that you combine them as a means to financial success and artistic fulfillment. Whether you do it in the context of house concerts or whatever is your eventual plan as a chamber group, whether you're doing outreach and education grants or anything like that, the idea is to achieve financial success and artistic fulfillment and to have the skills to do that. So I think everyone's questions usually are about what are the challenges that you have faced starting this nonprofit. And the answer is that I could spend 2 years talking about it, which is how long we've been in existence. But I'm going to try and do it in just about 4 minutes. So there are always fundraising challenges. I mean, no one ever raises as much money as they want, and there are always grants that you think you're absolutely a shoo-in for and then just don't get them. And then, so the question becomes what you can cut and how you can make it work. And so, for example, it's always really great, what has been really great for us are gifts in kind. So when we can't make the funds in order to do something the way that we had wanted, the best thing to do is to ask a person if they can provide it, one of the people that are interested in your organization or you think would be. And if something that's relatively minor to them, like for example, when you lose your venue for an event, find someone that has a large house that would be interested in hosting it. It's always important to find the right people, and the right people that have both the time and the skills to get things done. It's really easy to find people that have one or the other, but it's really difficult to find people that have both. And another big issue is modifications to our business plan, which has changed so many times based on the funds that we have and things we've been able to accomplish and things that have fallen through. So having the flexibility to change the business plan has been really important for the Music Bus really succeeding and staying relevant. And then the final thing, which I think actually is the most important is thing that we overcame, was the clarification of the mission statement. Because of the nature of the Music Bus Tour really encompassing the worlds of outreach and entrepreneurship and promoting the arts while at the same time talking about business, and there's a tour and then there's also the training for the tour, and there's all of these different things. And the mission statement was just too complicated and people weren't getting it. And I got it, but that wasn't enough. And so I spent with the board and with a lot of other people so much time just revising this mission statement until it was clear and concise and it made sense to the donors and the participants of the program, and then it was really a useful skill, a really useful tool for them to know what to do, because essentially all you really need is the mission statement, and then everything will fill in around that. So a snapshot really quickly of where the Music Bus Tour is today is we're in the midst of our second season with the Tetra Quartet. They're from Phoenix, Arizona, and their tour is going to begin May 24th and run through June 7th. We're really excited for them and have a lot of really wonderful venues lined up, as well as a lot of fantastic coaches that are going to go out to them in Phoenix and work with them here in Houston and really prepare them for this tour that they're going to embark on. We have hired our first part-time employee. Her name is Susan, and she is just fantastic at fundraising. She, at some point, did fundraising for a university, for the Houston Symphony. She's just done everything, and we got really lucky. I put a posting up on Craigslist. I mean, I'd never done hiring, and I got over 70 resumes of people, and many of them were just completely irrelevant. Like, I remember there was one, I think it was like a psych major from University of Houston or something. I mean, and no cover letter or anything, just, I mean, a completely irrelevant resume. And so, but then I also got probably 20 really qualified applicants. But the sell factor on Susan was that she really understood the goal, which is important, because there were a lot of fundraising and development consultants that didn't really understand the music world and didn't really understand what we were trying to accomplish. And that's not really helpful, because the development of an organization needs to be aligned with its goals. Otherwise, you're not really going to progress. And then currently we're working on expanding the board of directors, locating potential candidates, and planting the seed of being a part of the organization. That's really the next step for us in order to grow and succeed. And the final point I have is that we've gone from really working day to day or month to month to now finally having our 1-year plan, our 2-year plan, 3, 4, 5, and everything is really pretty clarified with budgets and things like that. And I was really fortunate to work with a business consultant to help make sure that it was all possible. And the 5-year plan is to have the infrastructure to support a physical bus, which has really been the goal all along that we had to put away in the beginning, because we realized that really you need to have quite an infrastructure to have a bus. You need a driver, you need a place to keep the bus all year, that type of thing. So 5 years, we want a bus. That's that's where we are. So now I'm going to turn it over to Anni. She is a member of WinSync. WinSync was really our huge success story. They were our pilot group and went on tour to New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, as well as Texas. And, well, Anni will talk more about it.
All right, well, hello. Just really quickly, I want to go through the members of WinSync since the picture's there. That's me on the left. Shout out to Kevin Pearl, who is an Eastman School of Music graduate, on the oboe. James Johnson's there in the middle on the clarinet. Tracy Jacobson herself on the bassoon, and Garrett Hudson on the flute. Let's go to the next slide. So the first thing about WinSync, so we were the very first ensemble in residence for the Music Bus Tour, and it was great for us because the Music Bus Tour had almost the exact same goals that we had as an organization. The group started at Rice University, where the group received highly skilled teachers and coaches and lessons in how to have, so they had this great product. But in order to be the interactive chamber group that WinSync wanted to be, it was a matter of finding the right personalities, people that wanted to step outside of the box, learn how to be more multifaceted entertainers. Another aspect was creating a brand. Our name WinSync is a direct reference to the pop band NSYNC, and we thought that would have a really large mainstream appeal, unless you're a Backstreet Boys fan, but whatever. Then defining a purpose. Our purpose was to reach as many people as possible with a really wonderful, entertaining product, creating really highly interactive concerts and educational, so that we could not only stimulate audiences that already loved classical music, but actually create them. And so our goals were just what I've just said. And then the niche, it's actually really interesting because the more music performers that we talk to, the more of them that are interested in developing this interactive style of presenting concerts. Beyond the concert hall, this is really important because for a chamber music group, getting outside of the institution in which you are always performing is really, really important. You have to learn how other people respond to your music, not just those highly educated in it. And so one way to do that is to find organizations at your school, like JUMP at the Shepherd School of Music, that promote concerts and outreach outside of the school. For us, Music for Autism was a wonderful nonprofit organization where we learned how to structure concerts for non-typical, atypical audiences. And then Young Audiences of Houston, which is a nonprofit organization as well that might be found in just about any U.S. city. I know they're all over, in which case it's just Young Audiences. But they screen arts organizations for those that are highly qualified and really deserve a chance to perform for educational institutions. And then those institutions that are interested in bringing you in can easily find you. Another route is artistic grant applications. And so in the first year, WinSync applied for the Idea Fund, Houston Arts Alliance, and the Richter Grant at the Shepherd School of Music. These are all a way to, many times you just need some funds to get going. And these are really great in the beginning. And then another way of distinguishing your group would be competitions. However, WinSync has found that this is really not the only route to success. However, we were finalists in the National Artists Competition. And then, so the snapshot of today, we're really excited because in our second season, the profit margin has increased by 15 times from last season, which is really, really exciting, especially for the founding members. And then as a testament to the skills and the development that WinSync learned on tour with the music bus, we have continued touring this season. In December, we went to the Virgin Islands and performed outreach concerts and a full recital. And then we have a West Coast tour planned for the end of April and beginning of May that we're really excited about. And really, if the music bus tour was essential in launching the career and the style of WinSync, because WinSync is notorious for improvisation and problem solving. And it's really important, and those skills were learned. Also just the diversification of the program. And so that's the next point, the commercial diversification as well. One of the things that we've done a lot this year is develop residencies in schools where we go in for a longer period of time than just one performance. We'll go in for multiple times and then have a culminating concert. Another thing is house concerts, which are a real intimate venue and setting, but really allow us to interact with our audiences and have proven to be very, very fulfilling as artists. Birthday parties. Those are really exciting too because it's another more intimate way of reaching these kids that are really excited about classical music and they get to learn all about the instruments up close. University seminars, we really feel like we are some of the perfect people to be presenting because we are experts in our field after these university educations. Maybe we don't have the entrepreneurial skills, but we certainly have all of the knowledge about idiomatic writing for our instruments. And so this one is actually referencing one that we will be giving at Stanford University on our West Coast tour, where we've been invited to give a seminar on contemporary composition for woven quintets. And then the thing that we were really proud of this year is our Streamlined School Concerts, where we have a very efficient, really entertaining show through young audiences called Peter and the Wolf that we performed at numerous schools. And about this time of the season, I'd say we finally have our final edit. It's taken a long period of time to really perfect. It's something that can't be overlooked. It's how much practice it takes to perform for audiences outside of the university. And it's really, really an interesting topic that has many facets, levels of entertaining and how to teach, children that are 8 and 9, 5. We performed for 18-month-olds at one of our schools. It's a really, really interesting topic and one that really could be addressed more in schools, in universities. And then quickly, WinSync, we have big dreams, and that's essential to any startup group is dreaming really big, setting the bar really high. Our goal is to be a full-time ensemble with full-time salaries. We, in the future, look forward to professional management so that we can take care of just more of the creative, we can take care of all the creative factors of planning a tour and structuring a concert. We hope to have an international presence. This is a direct tie to Tracy, and my first meeting actually was in Italy at a festival. So it was called CCM Spoleto. So we hope to maybe partner with them at some point in the future or any other organization outside of the country. We hope to continue our expansion of dramatic repertoire. Tracy and I in particular are really interested in the dramatic side of being on stage, and so we're hoping to drag along the rest of the members as well. And then, of course, our 3 platinum albums, which will be released within the next 5 years, so keep a lookout. Actually, and this picture is from the pub, actually, and that was a really, really interesting venue. Those are empty beer glasses. I don't think those are ours, but that's a full one in the back there. But yeah, this was a really fun concert. Anyway.
Questions?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. That was a great presentation, and we appreciate it. It's a fantastic idea, and it's great to see the project really going so well. That's very exciting. I want to remind people about the 2 ways to ask questions. Again, if you want to come on the phone, as your phone line is muted now, if you want us to unmute you and ask a question directly to Anni or Tracy, just raise your hand using your yellow hand button on your webinar control panel. Or if you want to write in a question that you have, we can certainly read that to them for you. You'll see the question box there on your control panel. I'm going to start with one that I have just to get the ball rolling. You mentioned the bus idea, obviously, one of the core ideas, with the program, the music bus. Was there anything else that, was a core idea or some piece that you had in the beginning and then it was something you had to leave out for whatever reason?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question, actually, because the initial plan for the Music Bus Tour was essentially, well, we wanted to host some really big name chamber group that had made a career using entrepreneurship and audience engagement skills. So my first choice was 8th Blackbird, to be in residence in this tour bus that was going to travel the country, that would be in residence at a different school each week, and they would give concerts and seminars at each school. And each group would be in residence for about 6 months. So as you can see, it's really, really changed from the initial idea. And honestly, it's changed to something that I am a lot more proud of, because I think it has actually a lot wider scope and greater benefit to lots of different stakeholders, not just people in in the conservatories and the universities, but also people in the community and communities all over the country.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think what everyone, the takeaway there is that, your idea is going to change, I'm sure, at some point, and being a little bit flexible and knowing how to change the idea and when to, I think it's very crucial. So
yeah,
we have a couple of questions coming in here, so I'm going to get to those. This is a question from Galen McCormick, who says, since you're working towards having the bus full-time, and you may want to clarify that, because I don't know if you were saying the bus full-time or WinSync being full-time, but they're saying, with having the bus full-time, why not look for uses other than just during the 2-week residency period? Why not look for, say, a winter season use?
Well, that's actually the next step. What I think would be fantastic is to have residencies all year round. However, it costs quite a bit of money to fund even just the one tour, as well as just taking an insane amount of time to schedule the tour and to schedule all of the coachings with the ensemble, and also it takes a lot of work with the ensemble on their image, on their logo, on their press kit, on all of these tools that they need. So yes, I think that I would love to have 5 or 6 tours each year, but just currently in our financial state and also just our state in development, we don't have the staff to do it, and nor do we have the funds. And so what you saw before was actually part of WinSync now being on a full-time track, as opposed to before the Music Bus Tour, when it was really on more of a student track.
Great. Question here from Kirsten Germay, who says, how did you initially raise the funds to sponsor the very first tour? Did the ensemble invest much of your own money into the first tour?
That's a really good question. So the first tour was really, it was the pilot. So we really didn't know what we were doing when we set out. But essentially, on the tour, we had several gigs that made money. So what we were looking for, we were going to recoup a lot of the expenses on the tour. The issue is we needed to initially raise the money in order to buy the plane tickets to get out there and to pay for the expenses that were going to be incurred before the tour. And the way that I went about securing this funding is actually, well, first of all, I'd like to recommend a fantastic book by Jim Collins. It's called Good to Great, and specifically he wrote a supplemental version for nonprofits called Good to Great in the Social Sector. And one thing that I learned from this book is when you're starting up an organization, the best place to go for funding, they call it the 2 F's, friends and fools. And so I asked my friends, I asked my family, people that, like, one of our bigger donations actually came from someone that I met on an airplane, and I just started, wherever you are, you just talk about your organization and you get people excited about it, and you never know who's going to take the hook and be really interested and have the means and the ability to donate to the organization. And so after the initial donations, and also being on a really low budget tour, it was possible. And the point of this tour is not to be the type of tour that a symphony orchestra goes on, where everyone stays in really nice hotels and everything is really taken care of for you. The point of this tour is I mean, think more indie rock band style. The ensemble doesn't pay anything for the tour, but it's not living in the lap of luxury. A lot of the fun comes from the homestays that the group is in, and you know, they're driving themselves around, there's no driver, things like that. And so a lot of the expenses are taken care of by the stakeholders in the organization who have donated gifts in kind. You know, their home, their food, their vehicle, things like that.
Yeah, funding is always a big topic. It actually makes me think of, you know, more recently there's these resources coming out like Kickstarter, which you're probably familiar with, and I just wonder, you know, is that something that, you know, you foresee, you know, using in some way for the future?
That's very interesting. I've looked at Kickstarter. Honestly, I haven't really pursued it very thoroughly, but I've actually, fundraising is really not my strong suit. When I was at Rice, I did a concentration in business and learned quite a bit about a lot of different facets of business. However, I did not study anything about fundraising, and so everything that I'm learning, I'm really learning as I go. And so I've recently hired a fundraising person for the organization, and I'm looking forward to her constructing a fantastic plan to proceed with. But it really is my concept and strong feeling for the music bus that it should really be supported by the communities that we visit and that we really touch, rather than supported by grants that are at more of a distance. Because you can count on communities for not just their monetary support, but also if they invest or if they donate $10 or $20, then they're going to come to your concerts and they're going to be interested in what you're doing and follow the blog on the tour and have a stake in what you're doing beyond just their monetary donation, rather than potentially a corporation that isn't necessarily interested in you and what you have to say and, you know, give to the community beyond just how it benefits them. And grants are excellent for a particular project, but they're difficult to count on in terms of recurring donations, as well as they're not going to get you an audience. And really what the Music Bus is about is audience building.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I just want to add for people, if you're not familiar with programs like Kickstarter, I believe it's Kickstarter.com, and it's sort of like a grassroots fundraising effort. You can apply to list your project there, like a CD or a concert or so forth, and you can set a goal for how much money you want to raise and send it out to your friends and family and fools, and they can donate $5, $10, and it's been really for some people. So
yeah, it's a great.
Question here that I guess we could toss to Anni. This is from Andrea Cleesadle. Hopefully I said that right. She says, what does WinSync mean by dramatic repertoire?
Oh, okay, so WinSync, one of the things that we do is, actually in the first season, they actually commissioned, and this is actually a really cool facet, is that WinSync commissioned a contemporary composer, his name is Garrett Schumann, to write a piece called Robin Hood. And then the very first production, they memorized the music and acted, and you can actually find these YouTube videos. I would definitely look them up. So they acted out this memorized, where they're literally going between speaking and playing and dancing around and moving, and they each had a character. And then so what WinSync did was they started calling this a quint opera. So once we had a name for this new genre of music, then our next project, which we were really excited about, was we we did this, basically a full production of West Side Story this year, which we call Wind Sink Story. And it's somewhat of a parody on the actual production, but in this production, most of us literally go between dancing, singing, playing our instruments, and moving around and acting, and all of us sing and all of us dance. So that's the dramatic element that we're talking about. And it's really, really exciting for us. We love doing those performances. So I hope that answers your question.
Great. Yeah, it makes me wonder, does the current ensemble for this year, are they doing something totally different? I mean, does the Music Bus Tour want to promote any particular repertoire, or is it really left up to the ensemble?
We really think it's important to get a wide variety of different styles of music, and it's really important to have a niche, but we want lots of different niches in our ensembles. So the Tetra Quartet, they don't do anything like WindSync. They play, they have a pretty traditional string quartet repertoire. They do some really exciting things with it. And they also include a lot of their own arrangements of some pop pieces and other things like that. So I encourage everyone to actually check out their website, tetraquartet.org, I believe it is, or you can just look them up on Google. But they're really quite awesome and also quite different.
Cool. Another question here, this one from Ashley Garofalo, who says, what is the collaborative process leading up to a tour? How long do you work with the ensemble prior to the tour, and what type of support do you offer them?
Well, we select the ensemble by the very beginning of January. And essentially, the month of January is used in having making sure, getting them up to the basic level that we want to work with groups, which is they need to have a contract between each other, they need a contract with us, they need to have, if they don't have a name, they need a logo, they need a brand, and we help them get to that point. They need to be at least the basic legal entity, which is usually a sole proprietorship or a DBA, and that allows them to open up a bank account in their name as opposed to writing a check to, so-and-so, the violinist in this group. You write it to the actual name of the ensemble, which I think is very important in terms of professionalism when you're working with people that are booking you. So at that point, that's about the end of January, middle of February. Then we start working towards, they're given a schedule of when they need to have their repertoire selected. They need to write the scripts for the concerts. And this is really done in a, the group is collaborating with each other pretty much separate from the Music Bus Tour. They have these deadlines, and that's up until, and then everything is submitted for review on the deadlines, and they'll get feedback from an expert, which is not just me, but from someone who really knows what they're talking about. And then in March, we actually begin coachings, and we begin them in their hometown. So they have people, clinicians go out and work with them, and that gives them a springboard by which to really start in like a fast track to getting revved up for the tour. And then in mid-May or just about then, they'll fly out to Houston and have a week of really intense coachings with people in music, in dance, in acting, in voice, and all of these different things, specialists in outreach and child development, specialists on working with children with special needs, things like that. so that they have this week of really, really intense training by which they can apply all of these new skills to what they've been working on as a group together. And then the tour launches, and they start off in Texas, and they will go to a few cities and different communities around Texas and conclude it back in their hometown. And so in terms of the hands-on-ness during the time that they're not in Texas, it's relatively small, except there's still a lot of communication and a lot of questions that are being answered and things like that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, it makes me think of one other related question, which is, I mean, it seems like an awesome opportunity for, for a chamber group that's looking to get out there and obviously learn about these things and then, get out and play a bunch of concerts and do innovative things. I think I remember seeing your sort of call for ensembles this past year, but how do you promote that? How do you reach out to groups, and do you use, social media to help you do that and that sort of thing?
Yeah, our main advertising was actually through social media, but we also did the conventional mailing out of posters. I think that being a part of the musician world, that's, all of my friends are young music professionals, and many of them are in chamber groups. That was a huge resource because I was really able to promote it to all of the people that I know and that I've networked with in my, time as a music student and now as a young professional. And then all of those people told their friends, and so many inquiries that I got from applicants were, I heard from I'm a trumpeter in the Miami Symphony, and I heard from my violinist friend who heard from their clarinetist friend at NEC that there's this program that you're doing. And so it was always really interesting the ways that people heard about the Music Bus Tour. So.
Great. I have a question here. I guess it's actually more of a suggestion that Elizabeth Friedman has written in. She's saying you could consider approaching corporate sponsorship in the way OK Go has. For example, if you're touring within a region and centralized in one area, you could consider approaching a dealership for an in-kind van rental to provide the wheels you need while you're in that region, giving them the marketing exposure in all your promotional materials and so forth. Has that something you've thought of?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the first thing that we learned, that if we tried to pay for everything, then we would have no funding left to present concerts. So a lot of these logistical things, that's exactly right. We had to approach people for in-kind donations that make the tour possible. I don't know about OK Go, but I'm looking forward to finding out more about it. Okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
Thanks, Anni.
Another question here from Galen McCormick, who asked for Tracy, is this your full-time gig, or do you supplement this with other playing work?
It's complicated, as all professional musician careers tend to be. I do not make any profit from the Music Bus Tour. I'm the director of the board. I don't get paid. I do it for fun. I do it because I love it, and that's that. But as a musician in WinSync, it is becoming my full-time job. And certainly marketing WinSync and applying all of the Music Bus skills really to their fullest is making it possible for WinSync actually to support me. And I play gigs, so that makes it actually possible for me to live. But yes, it is. I would say it is my full-time job.
Great. And actually, Galen actually just wrote in another question. which I think is a great question, saying, would you consider offering the full week of intensive training that you're saying happens in Houston for formed groups or individuals? So maybe groups outside of the ensemble in residence. It's hard to get this kind of focused training from the variety of coaches that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd consider doing at some point?
Interesting. I mean, I never thought of it, but yes. Probably not for free.
Right. It could be like the Music Bus Institute. You know?
Institute. Yeah. That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
I think
Because,
the really
right.
fun part, though, I mean, the coachings are really instrumental to the group learning these skills. But to me, there's really no point in learning them unless you can apply them to their fullest. And having this intensive training followed by a complete immersion experience, to me, I mean, it's like pushing the ensemble off the cliff for them to start flying, as opposed to running really fast until they can fly. I feel like it's the kickstart to move from student to professional group.
Mm-hmm.
Was her question, though, that an individual could just sit in?
Well, for the clinic.
For the clinic?
Yeah. And yeah, potentially in the future. It's not really something that I'd thought of, but if there is an interest, I don't see why not.
Yeah, that's great. All right, we're going to do one more question and then wrap it up because we know we want to be timely, wrapping up at 9 o'clock. So last question here from Kirsten Germay, who says, once you've organized the tour, how do you promote the concerts?
Well, one of our board members does public relations for her job. And so, as I said in the very first part of the webinar, how once you have your idea and your mission statement, you need to find the people that have the time and the resources and the skills to do the things that you can't do. So our director, Megan Shand, who did PR for the Pittsburgh Symphony and now for the Seattle Symphony, she's in charge of all the public relations planning. And so she's really fantastic, and I defer that really to her. Great.
Well, I guess with that, I want to thank Tracy and Anni for a great presentation and discussion. You guys have created a really fantastic program, and we wish you only the best of luck. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and also thank everyone at polyphonic.org for making this webinar presentation possible. We certainly hope that you will join us next month, Monday, March 21st, same time, same date even, 8 p.m. for our next free webinar. We'll have that information up on the website very soon. As I mentioned in the beginning, that's going to be Doug O'Connor from the Red Line Sax Quartet talking about their fantastic story of building their chamber ensemble. So thanks again for signing in. Thank you to Tracy and Anni.
And if anyone has more questions that weren't answered, email me. I'm really interested in, or even any ideas. I'm very open. I love to hear feedback and what people think, so please do.
And Tracy, you wanted to say your email address real quick?
Yes, it is Tracy, T-R-A-C-Y, at themusicbustour.org.
Awesome.
Can I type it in somewhere?
I think you have it on your first slide, right?
It's also on the last slide.
Okay. Yep. There you go. And yeah, you can visit themusicbustour.org. That's their website, and I think you can contact them through there as well.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you guys again, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone in March.